That is really something. This is the Great Australian Bight, spelled B-I-G-H-T, Marine Park. It is part of the Nullarbor National Park. The perspective, if I stand even slightly close to the edge, it gives me a feeling of vertigo immediately, because the sea is churning and moving. It really is quite disconcerting. The fact that a very, very large portion of the Bight of Australia, which is that circular chunk over 1,000 kilometers long, wide, is made out of these sandstone cliffs. And the Nullarbor, surprisingly, is not an Aboriginal name. It is from the Latin, meaning no trees.
I'm on day 3 of my expedition to cross Australia, twice. One by the easy route and return by the difficult route. This first piece is almost all asphalt, but takes in some of Australia's most spectacular and, I have to say, dullest scenery.
The road that travels through the Great Australian Bight National Park runs right next to the coast, so it's difficult actually to maintain a good average speed, because the scenery is so spectacular. I'm sitting here doing 80 just because it's so beautiful to look out of the out over the now, would it be the Indian Ocean or the Pacific Ocean? This part of it would still be the Indian Ocean. Yep. I've turned off a little track. The road on the map splits and starts moving away from the coast very soon, so I just wanted to get another glimpse of this incredible coastline. So I've taken a little track, and I just saw off the right. There's a storm out at sea. This really is something. This is an amazing vantage point, because if I look west, that's the Bight. That's a big chunk of the Great Australian Bight, and in the far distance there you can see the cliffs with the sun on them. That is quite something to see. And I imagine the water here is very deep close in, so at the right time of the year there are probably whales pretty close to the shore. And having come down a small road, nobody else around. So now, with the ocean very close to us, we're in the Nullarbor now. This is part of the Nullarbor Plain. I was going to spend the night here, but in effect I did. I just spent it on the edge of the plain, next to the sea. I've wanted to drive the Nullarbor for a very, very long time.
This is the Nullarbor Roadhouse, a major landmark in the area. Major, actually minor as well, because there's absolutely nothing else. The roadhouse is frequented mostly by tourists that consider the Nullarbor as one of Australia's must-do roads. If it wasn't for the fuel available here, this road would have very little traffic on it at all.
I thought I'd get some fuel here, might as well. $1.91 a litre. Very expensive.
The road through the Nullarbor, the road that links Western Australia with the eastern states, was not fully surfaced until 1976. It's part of the Eyre Highway, named after Edward John Eyre, the first European to cross the Nullarbor in 1841.
Well, this is the Nullarbor. Actually, I was a little disappointed. I expected a vast area of nothingness, not a single tree anywhere, and that kind of didn't happen for me. And, well, because I now understand that the Nullarbor actually is not where I thought it was. This is the Nullarbor, and it's nothingness. When my mother told me about the Nullarbor, she said it's this vast, she's never crossed it, but she had obviously heard it from other people, her grandfather or father, telling her about the Nullarbor and this vast area of nothingness. My vision of it as a child was endless yellow grass blowing in the wind. That is not what it's about. This is definitely a coastal scrub type semi-desert environment. It's very familiar to me. There are areas in Africa very similar to this, but none as vast in one uninterrupted space. But this to me is what I was looking forward to coming to. Just nothingness. What has surprised me though is the amount of traffic. Holiday traffic, yes, mostly holiday traffic, a few trucks. A lot of people come here just to see nothing. No camping tonight. From now on, it's just basically a rush through to Adelaide, where I'm meeting some friends, and then another rush through to Melbourne. So the fun really begins again in Melbourne in 2 days' time.
Daybreak in the small town of Minipa. I'm looking for coffee.
Not a soul stirs in Minipa this morning as I leave for Adelaide. Very good night.
But everybody is asleep. So instead I'll just have to look at my truck.
Now, tell me, who of you sometimes just look back at their truck and say, oh dear, that's good? I do, quite often. Actually, more with this truck than any other vehicle I've ever owned. There's something about it. It just works.
I'll tell you a funny story though. We went
An evening in Adelaide with some Patreon supporters was followed by a 6-hour drive to Adelaide, passing through the town of Cunalpan. Cunalpan has just been given a new lease on life by artwork on its grain silo. People now come from miles around to see it. The artist is Guido van Helten, and it was completed in 2017.
I've been spending the last few days in Melbourne. This is my brother's place, and a little village called Warrandyte, about 35-40 minutes out of the city. Today I have the meet and greet, which is about an hour from here, and meeting basically my Patreons and in fact public YouTube supporters coming to see the truck. I suppose ask about the truck. It is a bit of so many people waving at me. It's become ridiculous. I can't concentrate on the road anymore. And come and buy some t-shirts and talk four-wheel drive.
Here's a present for you, Andrew.
What inspired wrapping paper?
Very.
It's a pot plant. That's happening today. Gripping account of the life and times of one of Australia's most extraordinary adventurer, Francis Birtles. Then I'm off tomorrow to the BFG KM3 launch. Thank you, that is such a nice gift. Which is in the Victoria Highlands. That is going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing the product just a little less than I am looking forward to seeing the Victoria Highlands.
Less than 3 hours from the Melbourne Metro, the Victoria Highlands is described by themselves as Australia's premier cycling destination with soaring peaks, lush green valleys, historic streetscapes and fabulous food and wine. It's the chosen venue for BFG to launch their new tyre, the KM3. And that's because this place is also Victoria's premier four-wheel drive destination, with four-wheel drive tracks crisscrossing its hilly landscape. I've been asked to entertain some of the world's media with one of my best stories.
Well, here they are. Time to look intelligent. I've never done that before.
What a surprise finding you out here, Andrew.
Again.
Everyone, this is Andrew St Pierre White.
I chose the one about being surprised while I was crossing the Kalahari solo and nearly scared to death by a lion.
No telephone wires. Nothing. My heart is beating. I was just next to the fire, next to the car. It's about 7:30, just relaxing. I heard the strange noise. There's a lion, and he's right here. He started roaring. So, I mean, I had stuff outside, that all the car doors were open, and I didn't think that there would be a lion around. So I quickly ran around, closed all the car doors, and I'm sitting in the driver's seat thinking, well, how am I going to set up camp to go to sleep? Because wherever the lion is, it's very, very close. Oh, sure. It gave me a fright.
Thanks very much, Andrew.
It seemed to go down well. I've spent a total of 12 days with the press, also helping out with driver instructor duties, so I'm thrilled to get back onto my own route again.
Another driver change.
From the Victoria Highlands, it's 2.5 days drive to Brisbane and Australia's most easterly point at Byron Bay, which means finding suitable camping spots along the route.
This is a Wellington Caves caravan park. Pulled over, it's a little after 5 p.m. and I've just set up my camp for my trudge to Brisbane, actually to Byron Bay, to start my trip west. Today's drive has been the single most dull, boring, uninteresting drive in my history of driving through Australia. The landscape, 1 hour out of Mansfield, which is the town near where we were operating in the Victorian Highlands, to here doesn't change at all. The same. As a rule, a lot of Australia, when driving through it, there are places to pull off because it's bush. This part of New South Wales is not bush, it's all farmland. So it's fenced. So I actually started looking when I started realizing, in fact, that I might battle to find a camping place, just to pull off, that I might have to come to a caravan park at about lunchtime. 681 kilometers of the sameness. But you know what's great about this place? Check over there. That is the golf course, and those are kangaroos. An update from the road. I'm on the main road towards Byron Bay and Brisbane, approaching a place called Armandale. And it's, well, the country up to this point has been actually quite dull, hasn't changed at all, but now a little bit more hilly, a little bit more wooded, a little bit more interesting. I'm not going to make Byron Bay tonight. My plan was to actually camp on the beach, but my average speed is probably close to 70 kilometers an hour. The speed limit generally is 100, but there's you can hit 100 and stay there for a few minutes, and then there are roadworks, and then you go through a town. The towns, roadworks, trucks, towns, roadworks, trucks, towns, roadworks, trucks. Amazingly slow, actually. I had no idea it would be so slow. So while the GPS was giving me, and on the phone was giving me an average time, average speed, it's not even close. It's not even close. It said it would be. I would be here 9 hours, 35 minutes from where I left this morning. Reality, about 11 hours. So I will find a camp spot on the way to Byron Bay. It's a little after 4 o'clock, earlier than I will normally set up camp, but I've had a very long day today and not got as far as I would have liked. So I just pulled over near the town of Tenterton, about 30 k's out, and just pulled over at the side of the road and actually have a good rest and leave tomorrow. I'm 3 hours from Byron Bay, which would mean I would arrive there, 7:30ish, and that's too late. So we'll have a good look tomorrow, and I'll be able to officially start the beginning of my Trans-Australia expedition. Times when I'm alone that I actually feel the most vulnerable is actually not when I'm in the wilderness at all. It's when I'm in a place like this. There's a farm gate here. It's obviously the back entrance to a farm property, but it's unlikely that anybody will come through here. But the fact is that when you're in the wilderness, there's almost no chance that anybody will disturb your campsite. I suppose in Australia, like Africa, one should, if I went into that property, I'd be trespassing, so I'd have to go and ask permission. I'm on public land now, not far from the road, as you will soon hear as a car comes by. But it's that tentative sort of situation where, should I set up camp? Am I going to be all right? It's a slightly nervous feeling, and it takes a while to be in a place and then settle down in that place and feel comfortable with that place. The bird calls are actually really helping, because there's some beautiful bird calls around us, and I heard around me, and I heard a kookaburra not long ago. So that's kind of welcoming, but I'm starting to settle down, but it's you never really get used to it. Although, that said, the chances of somebody coming and causing me harm is really very, very slim indeed. I've heard from the locals that the only people in Australia that really want to cause you harm, they all stay in Canberra. And with the magic of media, we cut to the morning birdsong. Next stop, Byron Bay. Just seen the first sign to Byron Bay, 44 kilometers. Normally at this time during an expedition, I'm very excited, very pumped, very ready to go. Just as it. Not this time. I actually feel quite wrecked. I feel as if I've already just, and I, in a way I have, I suppose, but last night I had 11 hours solid sleep and woke up wrecked. There is the most easterly point of the Australian mainland. My job now is to travel due west. I'm going to try and keep as close to due west as possible, ending up at a place called Steep Point in Western Australia. That's the furthest westerly point on the Australian mainland. And this is the easternmost beach, Byron Bay. Big moment for me. I thought I'd have to come and try the waters of Byron Bay. Byron Bay is it's actually quite famous for young people who like to have a good time, if you know what I mean. They come to Byron Bay to do that. I've been in Byron Bay for precisely 10 minutes and I understand it completely. It's the kind of place you just don't want to leave. But leave I must. Down a minute. Well, here I go. Heading across Australia, through the middle, through the red centre. I've come here the easy way. I'm going back the difficult way. But before I head west...
Yeah, from a Rover lawnmower, it cost $8. It's the most expensive feature I've got in this truck.
This
is four-wheel drive Aussie legend John Ruth, aka Ruthie. I've just popped in for a quick visit.
Cool, look at that.
Yeah.
Well, see that thing there with the wires
That's
going
the
into
sensor.
it?
John is helping me with a minor problem that I've had with my truck.
Dust.
Gets a bit of dust on it. It's got like a little vein underneath, a couple of little veins.
Yeah.
And when they get dirty, the sensor starts showing faults. Do you mind if I rip this off?
Rip it off. Rip it off.
Look at this. First modification. Come to Ruthie's place.
From Byron Bay, I've come into Brisbane and Ipswich, where I'm doing the final preparation before we hit the wilderness, the outback, the true outback, as I cross the red centre to the furthest most western point in Australia. GlobalSat, the guys that did the electrical preparations for this vehicle, doing our final setup of the vehicle, and then we head off. However, from this point, I'm not alone.
Hello viewers. Hello internet.
Kate, my daughter, has now joined me, and apart from being good company, is operating the camera.
So I'm carrying 75 litres in the car's own tank, 20 litre emergency water in a separate can on this side, and then 10 litres. This is really for decanting. If I have to decant from a water source, 20 litres is just a bit too heavy and a bit too bulky to move around with these, but 10 litres is easy. This is also very good for wetting trousers. It works extremely well, as you can tell. So every day at the end of the camp, while we might actually use it while we're camping, this, before we head off in the morning, is always full, and it's always behind my seat. And that's because in an emergency, my grab bag and my emergency water, and I'm out. So it has a dual purpose.
Okay, so Andrew has just gone off to go pay for our fuel. I can see him in the store. He's probably buying chocolate as well. We have so many Cokes, so he's not buying any of those because I think one more thing in this car and it would be, well, it's already maximum weight because we just filled up with petrol, but we definitely can't put anything else in the car.
We are now full, absolutely full. Full water, full fuel, and here are some chocolates for you. Because we put so much fuel in the car, over $200 worth, so that's free chockies for us. And the idea is that everything is now absolutely full, so I can feel the vehicle, and if necessary I can adjust the shock absorbers if I feel that the weight doesn't match their settings. That's the beauty of the B351s. And that's it, we're now heading to, Birdsville is on the GPS, we're now heading due west. Just contemplating in my mind the road ahead. We're about to, the tar road is about to end, I think. About 50-60 k's ahead of us now. We're probably 700 kilometers from the east coast. Well, for the whole of the morning we've been driving in almost constant fog and light rain, and suddenly bam, the warm sun's come out, the sky's opened up, the roads have straightened, and we are now about 500 kilometers west of Byron Bay, contemplating 5,000-ish kilometers of gravel road, red dust, bush track. It's a big deal. Actually, it's a big bite that we are chewing at the moment. 3 weeks it'll take us to see more blacktop. I'm expecting the road to turn to gravel within the next 4 or 5 hours, and tonight our campsite will be near Birdsville, so we hit the Simpson Desert tomorrow. Kate, put on the camera and get in the car. Kate, 3 minutes in this car and she makes it look like a skip.
So we have stopped off in a little town called Charlesville. There's only one gas station though, so we're just filling up and then we're going to go find somewhere to either make some lunch or buy some lunch. Gonna go make some lunch.
Filling up with fuel will get us to Birdsville, and then Birdsville will fill up and then cross the desert. We've still got a day's drive to Birdsville. It's about 8.5 hours from here, that's the point. So it's half of today and half of tomorrow.
Hungry.
Well, we've pulled off at the side of the road. We made reasonably good time today, and now have to, because we're in a cattle area, have to cope with what I regard as it's flies all over you. You got flies all over you. Flies, they're really a challenge in the cattle areas, and to me it is the most challenging part of Australia, of travelling in Australia, are the flies. So, but they disappear the moment the sun goes down. They vanish completely. So, and it's probably 20 minutes before sunset. So we're going to cut out. Just going to create a little bush camp. Set off in the morning. We are behind schedule by almost a day, actually. But oh well, no big deal.
Okay, so we've just found a campsite. We just pulled off on the side of the road. There's a rest stop about 3 k's up, but that would have really sucked. It would have been right by the side of the road.
Go, your tent.
Yep. Isn't this the tent that Paul used on the canning stock?
Yeah.
In the next episode, is Australia's big red sand dune as much of a big deal as they say it is?
Make me sandy for the rest of the day.